Hello there, you're watching The Pulse on the JoyNews channel. Coming up this afternoon, domestic election observers are demanding the immediate resignation of two persons recently appointed to the Electoral Commission by President Akufo-Addo. The group argues that these two individuals have perceived connections to the governing New Patriotic Party.
However, nothing stops affected appointees, namely Dr. Peter Piahini, Hajia Salima, from voluntarily and honorably resigning from membership of the EC. This will be in the supreme interest of our country's continued democratic progress.
So what's the evidence to back the claims? We'll hear from Kodeo on this matter shortly. Illegality cannot solve your problems. That's the position of the Ashanti Regional Minister as he fumes over the decision by school feeding caterers to withdraw their services in the Ashanti region.
If you are to walk now, I was a man. If I just soldier, I come there. Now I send P.
This afternoon, there's a proposal from the Africa Education Watch and the Parliamentary Select Committee on Education. What are the alternatives and how do we improve school feeding? We'll delve into that later. The Ghana Water Company is also on a mass disconnection exercise for persons who are taking water supply illegally.
A lot of expenditure that we incur in processing water. Some of the expenditure are not the cause of us, they are external, but we still have to deal with them.
There's more from the Ghana Water Company shortly. Plus, we're keeping our eyes on that proposed legislation by the Muslim caucus in Parliament. The Chief Imam is backing calls for the formulation of laws that will prescribe or perhaps prescribe the appropriate manner in which Muslim marriages can be done in conformity with the laws of the country. And this afternoon, we're paying attention to the Electoral Commission because domestic election observers are calling for the immediate resignation of two individuals appointed to the Electoral Management Body. The group Kodeo says that Dr. Piahini and Salima Hajia, who were recently appointed to the EC, would have to relinquish that position based on a number of activities and pieces of evidence that connects these individuals to the governing New Patriotic Party. The reason for which Kodeo is making that argument is found in this redacted document that you have on your screens right now, pointing out what their concerns are. First of all, Kodeo is indicating that contrary to views expressed in certain quarters, that the designation of the president as the appointing authority subject to the advice of the Council of State, it does not mean that the president can go ahead and appoint party politicians and is free to appoint anyone at all to the EC, especially when they are persons who are known to have partisan connections or affiliation, which will create an apparent conflict of interest in the performance of their duties as an independent, non-partisan electoral commission. Now, beyond that, in light of the foregoing, Kodeo is indicating that in their considered view and position, they believe that the appointment of the independent and non-partisan EC of persons who are known partisan persons or who may have some affiliation or clouds over them and their heads is inconsistent with the spirit of the Constitution. Furthermore, such appointments actually risk undermining the cross-party and public trust and confidence in the Electoral Commission. That's posed a danger to our evolving multi-party democracy. So here are the concerns in respect of these two individuals that Kodeo is asking for some immediate actions on. And the first person is Dr. Piahini. Dr. Peter Piahini, since the announcement of his appointment, according to Kodeo, as the member of the Electoral Commission, they found social media postings that have revealed that Dr. Piahini is, quote, an activist of the New Patriotic Party in the Bono region. In one of the social media comments, for instance, from the January 2021, headed Dr. Piahini for Bono Regional Minister. Dr. Piahini is featured on an NPP labeled flyer as one of the 6 prospects for the position of the Bono regional minister. Beyond that as well, they're raising some concerns about the other individual involved here, which they explained at a news conference earlier today. Listen to one of the leading figures of Kodeo express their concerns.
We are painfully aware that voluntary and constitutionally grounded revocation of these unfortunate and democratically problematic EC appointments by the President is extremely unlikely. However, nothing stops affected appointees, namely Dr. Peter Piahini and Hajia Salima Ahmed Tijani, from voluntarily and honorably resigning from membership of the EC. This will be in the supreme interest of our country's continued democratic progress, election peace and credibility, and indeed the overall national interest. While both Dr. Piahini and Madam Salima Ahmed Tijani meet the generic benchmark qualification stipulated under Article 44(1), that is the same qualification one must satisfy to be a member of Parliament, we believe strongly that, having regard to the independent and non-partisan nature of our Electoral Commission and its mandate, the spirit of the Constitution demands far more in the way of one's suitability to be a member of the EC. We accordingly call on Dr. Peter Piahini and Hajia Salima Ahmed Tijani to do the honorable thing and resign.
Well, let's get more on this. Kweku Asante, our parliamentary correspondent, has been observing, of course, the concerns being raised by the domestic election observers. He joins us in studio now on a number of some unfolding issues that we're also learning of. Kweku, let's talk about the second individual, apart from Dr. Piahini, who's in hot waters as we speak, from the perspective of the domestic election observers. Who is this individual and what's the peculiar concern about the individual involved?
So this is Hajia Salima Ahmed Tijani, and according to Kodeo and the kind of research that he have done, Kodeo is saying that there are known persons around her who are known MPP persons, for which reason they believe that if she goes to the Electoral Commission, it pains the Electoral Commission in a certain light. Let me read some of the things they say. They say, for instance, that the father and the mother have all been either national executive or regional executives of the New Patriotic Party, and that's not augur well for the independence and impartiality of the Electoral Commission. Let's listen to what Kodeo had to say about that also.
Since the announcement of his appointment as a member of the EC, social media postings have revealed that Dr. Piahini is an activist of the New Patriotic Party in the Bono region. In one social media comment on January 2021 headed Dr. Piahini for Bono region, Dr. Piahini is featured on an NPP labeled flyer as one of the 6 prospects for the position of the Bono regional minister. The commenter who put up that post states that the Bono region and the NPP party need much more energetic and vibrant leadership to help make the region to the desired goals, to take the region to the desired goals, and urges all to rally behind Dr. Piahini for the Bono region minister to achieve more. In other social media video clip that has gone viral since his appointment, Dr. Piahini is seen and heard participating in a radio program, Anopa Nimdie Juaso, on Nimdie FM 95.1 Sunyani, as a self-identified NPP partisan and activist in the Bono region, and naming one Kwame Bafo, popularly known as Abrinye DC, as the chairman. Predictably, the appointment of Dr. Piahini has generated a heated public debate in both mainstream and social media. The National Democratic Congress, NDC, has denounced the appointment, while the NPP has defended it. Internet searches and other social media exchanges since the announcement on her appointment have revealed additional relevant information about Madam Salima Tijani. She is said to be married to one Sheikh T.B. Damba, a a leading member of the NPP, who was formerly the second national vice chairman of the party and served as Ghana's ambassador to Saudi Arabia from 2017 to 2021. Madam Salima Tijani's mother, that's Hajia Samata Gifty Bukari, was the first elected woman, first vice chairperson of the NPP in the northern region, while her sister, Hajia Abibata Shani Mahama Zakaria, who is currently the CEO of Microfinance and Loans Center, MASLOC, tested the 2020 NPP primaries in the Yendi constituency and has already publicly announced her intention to contest again for the Yendi seat in 2024. Madam Salima Ahmed Tijani's multiple close familial relationships with leading and active NPP figures raise apparent conflict of interest concerns, and for that matter, a legitimate perception and appearance of a lack of independence.
Okay then, Kweku, so that's it about the two individuals, but there's an overarching claim about how this is likely to affect the Electoral Commission itself.
Indeed, according to Codeo, and they've been referencing Afrobarometer report and surveys in recent times, that has pointed out a waning in terms of trust and confidence and the abilities of the Electoral Commission to conduct free and fair elections. So they talk about Afrobarometer report, which currently states that about 10%, only 10% of Ghanaians fully trust the Electoral Commission to be able to undertake such elections. So let's listen to Codeo as they say that such appointments goes further to deepen that chasm between the people's trust and the EC's ability to do their work.
Afrobarometer surveys have recorded declining levels of public trust in the EC. Trust ratings for the EC have shown a steady decline since 2008. In 2004, close to half, that's 48% of Ghanaians, trusted the EC. The EC's trust ratings reduced by 8 points to 40% in 2008. In 2012, this dropped drastically to 27%. The Commission's trust rating continued to trend downward in 2014, decreasing that year to 18%. The EC's trust ratings saw a boost in 2017 to 25%, but still significantly lower than its previous years. The slight increase in trust ratings for the EC was unfortunately short-lived. In 2019, trust in the Commission dropped to 21%, and in 2022, the most recent survey, public trust in the EC dropped to an all-time low of 10%. Trust in the EC is too important for our democratic and social peace and stability. Remain this low or get worse. Ladies and gentlemen, building and sustaining trust and confidence in an election management body is a delicate.
Fortunately for us, Reverend Digby is joining us via Zoom. Thank you, sir, for your time here on the poll. So these are concerns that you have with individuals who have been appointed by the president. Per the Constitution, is there any critical violation for which you're asking for their resignation?
Thank you for having me. There's really no critical point to say that they should not serve. But we're just appealing to them, their own good conscience, and also looking at the history of what we've gone through and where we are now in terms of the percentage of people who have an interest in election, where the percentages are 10%. That do not augur well for them. Justice must not only be done, it must be seen to be done. And perceptions are important as far as politics is concerned and elections are concerned.
And I see in your statement that most of the issues that you refer to, for instance, are matters that you picked up from social media. We're in the age where, of course, there could be misinformation on these platforms. Have you gone a step further to check the veracity or otherwise of these pieces of information that you're picking on the internet?
Yes, we have. And if we've gone, or since we've gone public, if there's any evidence to the contrary, and we are shown that evidence, we'll be the first to admit that we are wrong. But as far as we know, we have put this out there because we are sure of it. It's out there. Anybody can do a Google search and find some of these things on the internet as well. If there's a cloning or there's some other AI infiltration somewhere, we are told, we'll be glad to say we are wrong. But as of now, we think we are right.
3 individuals were appointed. Why 2, by the way?
Well, the third one, we do not have anything really against her appointment. So we are not just going out there to do a block rejection of 3 people who have been appointed. We are saying the 2 who we are advising to advise themselves, they have question marks around them, not only by us, the elected, those who observe, but by public here and there. And therefore, if the third one has nobody objecting to it, we don't have any reason to say because she's been appointed, she must go.
Yeah,
no.
But this incident reminds us of what transpired when the EC chairperson herself was appointed. Claims were made that she has connections and affiliations to the governing New Patriotic Party, yet the EC chairperson delivered the 2020 elections and all the political parties participated in the process. Don't you believe that we'll get to a point where everyone will be over this?
We hope so. That's what we all hope for. But when it's becoming more and more obvious that it's becoming one too many or two too many, then we have to say, please, let's look at this again. We know that sometimes the political parties are quick to say this and that and cry wolf when there's no cry wolf. But when the evidence of the 2 that we are talking about is so much out there, then we advise that they should advise themselves, because that evidence, as we were just saying, is in the public media. And why would we go that route when there are so many other Ghanaians who qualify to play that role? We just want to ensure that those picked up by the president to do this work for us, to serve the nation, are the best we can, because we are not saying they shouldn't have their own political leanings, but it should not be so obvious that you are so tarnished or you are so partisan that nobody will even look at you because they can identify clearly that they are on this side of the political divide.
What is the biggest fear of Codeo? And there are constitutional remedies that you could take advantage of. There's the process of impeachment, which could be triggered by the Chief Justice through the office of the President who did this appointment. Why not making or taking advantage of that route?
Well, we think that's a very long process. The most honorable thing, you see, for instance, the President is supposed to have done this on the advice of, in consultation with the Council of State. We don't have that benefit of it now. Now, what we have is whether it was done or not, but what we do know now is what is in the public domain. So the easiest thing is to ask those who have been mentioned, look, this is what we're finding out about you. This is what some Ghanaians are saying about you. We advise that you step down. If they don't, then we'll see what else we'll do. Or just like for argument's sake, if we are wrong and there's evidence to the contrary, then we will advise ourselves as well. So we don't have the evidence. And unlike previous people who were appointed, the president will come with a list of their qualifications, their background, and all that caused him to have confidence in saying these people are qualified to have public office. We do not have any evidence as far as these people are concerned. And before we could say, Jack, they've been sworn into office. So it's as if the die is cast. But if it is, then this is what we are seeing. Mr. President, Ghanaians, this is what we have out there. Let's put it out there as people who are interested in the peace of this nation. The 3 member bodies who have been working for the peace of this country are saying, no, we don't think this is right.
Right.
But let's take a second look at it.
Perhaps in the observation of Sam, the president saw this coming, a reason for which he made these statements when, of course, he was swearing in these three individuals, that the elections or the outcome of the election is not dependent on coalition, and that the vote of each and every citizen is what would determine the outcome. What's your response to that?
That is not completely true. If election observers, whether it is domestic or international, were not important, we wouldn't be having them. If collation and pink sheets and all those things are not important, we will not be having them. So have we ever had the 240,000 and over polling station results published in this nation? Do we? Is there any record anywhere for us to show that this is what our election results are? So we say those things. Yes, elections are won at the polling station. People must be vigilant. But when push comes to shove, we want to see the ultimate record, the compilation of all of these things. And the accuracy is important. There have been times when mathematical problems, subtraction and addition, have caused problems and they've been rectified. And election results have been varied, not just in this country, but elsewhere. So if he foresaw it and he cautioned us, well, we also want to say that other nations have gone through such difficulty. It is not only, nobody lives in a village now. We live in a global village.
Right.
And therefore, what we do, if we have the figures to show that you've done the right thing by anybody's standard, you stand a better chance of getting people to applaud your democracy.
Right.
Than say it's not won by observers or those who have nothing to say or do.
Okay, just before I let you go, briefly deal with this for me. If Dr. Apiahene and Hajia do not tender in their resignation because we've gone past the appointment, what will happen and what is Codeo likely to do about this?
There are 3 member bodies, and we try to answer that at our press conference. We will confer again and see what we can do. We've thrown it out there to the larger Ghanaian public to think together and to see that this has an implication for us as a nation. Election is still a long time away, and our referees are being gathered. If we see that there's something that may not help us, and we put it out there. We are all Ghanaians. We are all fellow citizens. Let us not just play the ostrich. Let's talk about it and decide what to do. And the next steps will be, as are deemed appropriate by these observer bodies, would be taken.
We'll see you again. Reverend Dr. Fred Degwe, thank you for spending some time with
pleasure.
us. I want to bring in now Dr. Asal Santi, political scientist at the University of Ghana. Thank you, Doc, for your time. Clear case of concerns of mistrust, and also it borders on the integrity of the individuals that have been appointed to fill the vacancies at the Electoral Commission. For you, should these 2 individuals simply resign and solve this impasse?
I think it is not out of touch for they themselves to do the honorable thing by resigning. I did indicate when they were appointed, and I talk about Dr. Apiahene, that he should honorably go out. Now, another evidence has come to the fore, which suggests that the woman should also what? One of the women should also join. You see, elections are believed or not believed based on the integrity of it. And the integrity are mostly driven by the managers of the process. If you have managers that their presence are questionable, I'm afraid you are likely to have a problem. All right? They have not committed any crime. By that, we are saying that given their association with the MPP as a party, and giving their the public exposed partisan exposed nature of them, we expect that they don't sit on a board that is supposed to be neutral and administer issues or justice to all parties that are in the same political playing field. If you do otherwise, you are likely to compromise the process. And if the direction that consider it or take it with a pinch of salt. In order to what? Take this thing out of the equation. We are saying that they should step down. It is important so that you save the integrity of the election. Election is only driven by integrity. Imagine those who don't believe that they should go, they think that, it's not specific, prevent them from that. Imagine this appointment. The president said Mr. Mohammed's son to be on the board. Do you think the MPP would agree to this? These are the things you must look at for, all right? And then do the needful. After all, we are building a society that is just and fair. An election is something that we cannot toy with because it defines the focus and direction of the country. And that things of this nature are likely to undermine the credibility and integrity of elections.
And once again, I'm reviewing the constitutional construct of the level at which we consider the EC chairpersons to be. And it's similar to, of course, justices of the superior courts of the land. That's the construct the Constitution is giving to these individuals. But then again, we've seen, even at the Supreme Court, persons who are politically affiliated taking there, and they do deliver justice if we believe that that's the case. So why should the Electoral Commission be the exception?
We are saying that if you look at the commission, as I gave you the scenario, imagine you have put John Mohammed's son as chairman of a commission. One of the parties will rejoice, others may not. And would it bode well for a body that is expected to be neutral? All right. Yes, neutrality. If you look at, you compare it with the Supreme Court, yes, we expect neutrality, but we expect what? The law. It's more of law, that you apply the law to the facts before you. Here, your action, your ability to even handle some issues, the way you carry yourself, they are all a function of the process, and it can undermine, the process. So we are saying that not only the law, but your action, everything, even supply of materials at the right time. If there is even a delay and it's a genuine delay, people can read political meanings into it. So this one is more volatile, all right, because it deals with not only law, but action and inaction can also cause a whole lot of problem.
We need to go.
The slightest of of settings.
Right, we need to go. Yeah, just complete that point.
Rearing their ugly heads in the system will create problems for us, and that is why people have begun to raise the alarm bells.
Okay, Doc, we need to go, but very, very quickly, should the president be taking blame for what's happening now?
Well, obviously, he is our appointing authority, so we believe that this decision is totally wrong, and that the president has opportunity to withdraw them, right? If it is wrong, we need to call it as such. It is absolutely wrong. Because you see, once you make such appointment, right, and it passes, even if the election goes on smoothly, you now set the stage for other government to come in and also appoint more politically exposed people into the commission. And at the end of the day, you undermine the neutrality, which is supposed to be inherent in that body to discharge their duty with that sense of neutrality. You've taken it off. So we don't want a precedent to be set so that it opened the floodgates for future, decisions taken in that regard. I think the president has to withdraw them, or they themselves must put down their seat and say that we are okay. We have understood the concerns of the public for the sake of stability, for the transparency, and all there is to a free and fair election. We are prepared to stay away, and the president filled the gap with another 2 persons.
And if nothing happens, what happens to 2024 elections?
Well, nobody knows, but you have staged the stage for all manner of doubts within the system. So should something go wrong, I will not be surprised that people will stand on that and say, "Oh yeah, who told you so?" And that can create difficulties for us. And I'm not sure that is what we want. We've been able to build a very solid democracy. It's not perfect, but we've been able to weather the storm. And then within the sub-region, we are praised for that democratic transition we have been able to undertake from time to time, especially where we've been able to, political parties have been able to hand over power to to opposition parties successfully without any problem. That is a credential that we don't want to dent it at all. Democratic credentials are difficult to come by. So if you spend all your time developing and building structures that are able to give you some semblance of stability and the rest of them, you don't want to spend any day or minute to destroy it. It is difficult to build. We have come this far, and people have fought through thick and thin to establish a meaningful democracy, a democracy that all of us are proud of, and we don't want any decision to undermine the very fortunes that we have worked for.
I'm grateful, Dr. Kwame Asante. Thank you for joining us. Political scientist at the University of Ghana. We take you now to the Ashanti region. Illegality cannot resolve problems. That's the outburst from the Ashanti regional minister, who's unhappy about the decision of school feeding caterers to withdraw their services in the Ashanti region. The caterers claim that they have not been paid for several months, a reason for which they are withdrawing their services. They took that up to the office of the Ashanti regional minister, who is unhappy about their activities in the region. There's more in this report for you.
Caterers under the school feeding program in the Ashanti region on Monday protested the unpaid arrears for the third term in the previous academic year. They also prevailed on the government to increase the feeding grant from 97 pesos to 3 cedis per child. The caterers subsequently petitioned the regional minister Simon Osei-Mensah. Cooking facilities in the public schools visited by Love News on Tuesday remained shut. Pupils of State Boys and State Girls MA Basic School, Mamponting Basic School and Marseille Basic School were not served their usual meals. Madam Regina Osea Santua, a teacher at the State MA Basic School, says the situation is worrying.
For us here, our children, their problem is most of them come to school without money. So when they come after 10 a.m., you see that most of them will start sleeping. Some of them will be feeling weak. When you ask them, they say they are hungry. So the feeding helps them a lot. And we, the teachers, too, it helps us to teach them well, because if a child is hungry, she or he will not concentrate on whatever you are doing. So it helps them in that way. So what I would say is we will plead with the government to continue feeding the children for us.
Madam Ajaram, a matron at the State MA Basic School, says the situation has left students perturbed.
If you are to work on I was a man, if I just Sogah, a come dear. Now I SMP.
Sometimes the kids come around to ask for food, but we have nothing because our salary doesn't come. Our debtors have also refused to give us anything on loan. We plead with the government to help us.
For JoyNews, Nana Boachi Dankwe Yadom reporting.
It's about the budgetary allocation to the issues of school feeding. Executive Director for the group, Kofi Asare, joins us in studio now. Thank you, sir, for your time. So you've seen the concerns being raised by the caterers in the Ashanti region. Is this just an Ashanti region problem, or perhaps the situation goes beyond that region?
Well, good afternoon to your cherished audience. I think this is the first time we are seeing the strike action or such protests taking place in Ashanti. But we've seen virtually similar ones in all the regions in times past, where caterers called on government to pay their money to them. Some of them had to match with the ministry at a point. And some of them also declared or threatened to declare, a sit-down action and all that. So this has been going on for about 2 years now. And we are not surprised because in 2018, the cost of providing food, lunch for people, was increased to 97 pesos.
97 pesos. 97 pesos.
Exactly.
So this is what we're using to feed people in our primary schools across the country.
97 pesos. Around that same time, government was paying about 1 cedi, 60 pesos for lunch under free senior high school. Okay. As we speak, government is paying about 3 cedis for lunch under free senior high school. So why are we still paying 97 pesos for lunch, in basic schools? So especially cognizant of the fact that the caterers are shopping from the same markets that the secondary school caterers are also shopping. And so the circumstances doesn't allow them to deliver quality, to meet the nutritional and educational objective of the school feeding program. And that is why we are worried, because anything that happens to the school feeding program, which affects the quality of food served, which affects the quantity of food served and the regularity of food served, goes to affect enrollment, retention, and completion in schools, and goes to erode the gains that have been made. So we are also worried.
How can we resolve this, even before we look at the next budgetary window? Because looking at the fact that we're going in for an IMF bailout, there may be some restrictions in terms of subventions and, of course, the intervention from the central government in respect to some of these programs, school feeding, LEAP and all of that. That's the fear. We're not certain as of now. But how can we deal with that immediately whilst we look at the changes in the budgetary allocation?
Well, what you mentioned is not a fear. It's actually a present danger, because the IMF medium-term expenditure framework starts with 2023. So if you look at the budget, the amount of money allocated to the school feeding program was not for this year was not consistent with the demands, the agitations, and then also the economic realities of today. And so we have about 960 million being allocated to the school feeding program. And that cannot accommodate the increment the caterers are calling for. At least we need 3 billion cedis annually to pay 3 cedis for lunch, decent lunch, consistent with the secondary school. And even though the secondary school guys are also saying that theirs is not adequate, but at least that would be a perfect place to end this particular issue. Secondly, if you look at the medium-term expenditure projection of the Ministry of Finance, it intends to repeat the same amount of 960 million as allocation to the school feeding program in 2024, which is also not acceptable, because inflation there will definitely be the implications of inflation, okay? And so we believe that both this year's budget and next year's budget will have to be reviewed to reflect the economic realities.
Right.
But in the third year of the medium term of the IMF program, we see that the projection in the MTEF is to reduce the school feeding program budget by 23% to about 770 million.
So that may even affect this 97 pesos that we're talking about.
That may not necessarily affect the 97 pesos, because it will be unconscionable
to do that. But we can't tell us.
But the possibility lies more in reducing the number of beneficiaries from the current
on that project.
Right. But we have never seen that since the program started. And so we have called on the Ministry of Finance to review the budget estimate for this year through the supplementary budget window and ensure that increased allocation is made to the school feeding program in the supplementary budget of 2023 so that the demands of these caterers can be addressed. But moving forward, the ministry will have to revise the medium-term expenditure projections in the budget for 2024 and 2025 to reflect at least the 3 billion annually required, so that we can do 3 cedis lunch, for per pupil, at least for the next 3 years. But finally, let me indicate that it is time for us to build an automatic, price adjustment formula into the system. We don't have to wait for people to lay down their tools and dictate before someone takes a political decision that, a tokenistic decision that, okay, I'll give you this. No, let's have a system so that when we are demanding accountability from the caterers, okay, we will not be restrained by virtue of the limited funding government is providing for them, so that we can strictly hold them to account in terms of the quality of food, the regularity of their delivery.
What do you diagnose the problem from? Some say, well, it's a situation where we have the free senior high school being a toll on the entire education budget, a reason for which we are not able to deal with the review of the 97 pesos at the basic level. What's your own diagnosis of this problem?
The cause of this problem is simply that the school feeding program was not conceived as a procurement activity. The school feeding program, as conceived as part of the NEPAD program in 2004-2005, was conceived as a homegrown program where communities will initiate school feeding. They will cook food that they grow in their area, and then the ones they don't grow, government.
So that's the idea.
That is how
the original idea.
That's the idea that Dr. Makutufo and Co. started with this program with, and that is the best practice in SFPs worldwide. Ours has become a reward mechanism for party loyalists, and so
you have evidence to back what you're saying.
The caterers are all MPP people. If another government comes within 2 weeks, they will all lose their jobs. We've been doing this to ourselves for the past, since 2005. You understand? So when you have such a transactional school feeding program, what happens is that when you are making cogent demands for price adjustment, you are seen to be a beneficiary of a political gift.
Right.
And so shut up. That's how come the Chancellor General Minister told them that. He actually rubbished.
You feel he's surprised because these are people who are supposed to know better, that we're belonging to the same.
He's surprised because they are doing them a favor.
Okay.
He's surprised because these are women whom we are doing them a favor by dishing out political contrast to them. You can't talk to professional caterers that way, can you? You can't. You can't talk to professional caterers that way. So the transactional nature and the politicized nature, overly politicized nature of the school feeding program makes it difficult for the caterers to demand quality improvements in the management of the program because they have been gifted a procurement opportunity by virtue of they being part of a political party. Right. And so you can't talk plenty. If you talk, they say you are disgracing the government. Shut up. That is why we have been managing 96 pesos from 2018, 2019, 2020, 2021, 2022. COVID, Russia, Ukraine interventions. Add them. 50% food inflation, just within 1 year. In 2023, we are still
going forward, how do we deal with this, aside the adjustments of the budget?
We need to revert to the framework for managing SFPs, school feeding programs. We need to begin to we need to reform the whole system and build a new school feeding program based on community ownership. Community initiatives, communities through the SMCs and traditional authorities and other stakeholders will mobilize their people and then mobilize food in their area, get caterers, and let them cook for the kids. Where communities need support by way of ingredients that are not available within the local community, oil, think tomatoes, etc., depending on the local community, geographical location, government comes in to support. It has to be community-led. So that the SMC, which has reps from all the key interest groups within the community, should be leading this. If we don't do this, and we want to enjoy the spoils of, political procurement and be dishing out school feeding contract to party loyalists the way we want it, we will never improve upon the Ghana school feeding program. So I think that is the best way we need to approach.
And as you take leave of us, are we expecting an action from the Africa Education Watch?
No. We have already indicated that the issue ongoing has to do mainly in the short term. In the short term, this is not a Ministry of Gender issue. I work with the Ministry of Gender, so they would have been the right people the first people would have engaged on this matter. But in the short term, this is not a Ministry of Gender issue. Reforming it is a medium to long-term issue. But the immediate term, what needs to be done to get the caterers to go and teach and cook, what needs to be done to avert to prevent other regions from also laying down their tools and the kids. Luckily, we are on vacation.
Yeah.
But what needs to be done immediately so that by the time school reopens in a week or so time, the situation doesn't escalate is incumbent on the Minister of Finance. The Minister of Finance must first release the 960 million that was approved in the 2023 budget.
Right.
We don't see that money. I'm not sure it has been released. Second, the Minister of Finance must see the supplementary budget for 2023 as a window of opportunity to redeem the budget deficits that occasion the allocation to the Ghana School Feeding Program in the 2023 budget.
Else, next week?
Else, I mean, the outcome is predictable. You will see other caterers in other regions
Joining.
Yeah, we don't want to see this happen. Right. We are happy this is happening at this time. We are
when the students are on vacation.
Yes,
right.
We don't want to see this happen when the students are back to school.
Okay.
We believe this can be resolved. It's a liquidity issue. They should release the cash. When it's time to use the supplementary budget, ensure that you enhance the allocation.
Okay, then. Kofi Osare is the Executive Director for the Africa Education Ward. Thank you, sir, for joining us. So let's try and get some response from government. Joining us now is Yao Pokument, Deputy Spokesperson at the Ministry of Education. Yao, is it the case, first of all, that there seems to be some level of political patronage with the way the school feeding contracts are given?
Good afternoon to yourself and to our lovely viewers. Actually, unfortunately, the school feeding program is not under the Ministry of Education. It is under the Ministry of Gender and Social Protection. So I wouldn't be able to speak on that line since the school feeding program is not under the Ministry of Education.
But then, obviously, there's a wide range of issues that will come up. The possibility of this affecting the quality of education across all public basic schools. Are you not worried that this may derail the academic processes?
Yeah, it's naturally to come as a worry if kids with the expectation that they will go to school and they will get something to eat from school, and if that is not provided within the time frame as they expected. But school is on vacation, we are on recess, and the expectation is that once we start the new term, we expect that what is expected, especially from the feeding aspect, will continue as expected. And we have no doubt in our minds that there will be a problem with the discharge of duties from the caterers in feeding our students or the pupils in the various schools. We do expect that the normal system within the curriculum is followed. We do expect that everybody who forms part of the school environment will discharge their duties as expected. So we have no doubt in our mind that there wouldn't be any food for our children. We strongly have the feeling and the belief that food will be made available to the students when school resumes after the vacation break.
And even talking about the academic calendar itself, you're making some adjustments and changes to it. What's likely to happen from next week?
There haven't been any adjustment in the academic calendar, and I don't know where the conversation is heading towards or within which of the levels that we're looking at the academic calendar. At the basic level, nothing has changed. School reopened on the expected date that was announced to the general public. For the for the senior high schools, they also do have the calendar as it was announced. And I think probably where you will be, you want to draw the conversation to has got to do with the SHS1, where we indicated that they take their break plus the Easter festivities as well. So
yeah, and that novel arrangement is why many are asking what's changing. Are you doing some adjustments, and what's accounting for this decision?
No, there hasn't been any change. Naturally, on Thursday, for the Easter break, and when they come back, probably within some few days, they will also break for their normal break as the calendar was announced. So why the decision was that why don't we extend it so that it covers the Easter break rather than coming back? Mind you, at the SHS level, majority of them are in the boarding house. So you taking your going and coming back to school within that short period. Why don't we extend it as part of the Easter break so that they will have their normal break instead of coming back? So if you take that out, nothing has changed. Their reopening still remains the same for both first years, second years, and the final years. So there is no changes as the timetable reads, with the exception of that extension taking up the Easter breaks as part of the normal break that they do.
But you've communicated this well to the parents and stakeholders involved.
Well, we are heads of schools have been communicated to, and I think you stand to reason with management of Ghana Education Service why they should extend the Easter break as part of the normal break for the first years. So that communication has been given out to heads of schools, and the parents form part of the stakeholders of the school. And definitely, the expectation is that they do know what goes on in the schools, and the general public is aware as what break and when we are coming back, as announced earlier.
Okay, then let's stay at the senior high school level briefly, because you've also issued a directive to all the heads of senior secondary schools. You're asking them not to merge their accounts, for instance, with that of the parent-teacher associations, and you would want them to decouple that. What's accounting for that directive? Is it because you now want to monitor the allocations and the funds that are being disbursed to the schools? What's happening?
No, PTAs, schools have never been part of the association. It is a voluntary association solely for parents. So therefore, there can't be any conflict between what accounts for the school finances and what accounts for the PTAs. PTAs operate outside the school system. So therefore, we don't see the reason why schools will be the body that will be seen to be collecting dues or whatever levies that parents or the association begin to give out to their members. That is not what pertains within the schools, and therefore schools do know the role they play. You stick to what the school environment dictates for you, and the association also operating outside the various schools. So it stands to reason, and if you are a school, you don't meddle in the affairs of the parent association. The T is not part of what you previously know. It is solely a parent association, and it's a voluntary association that falls outside the school. And therefore, we don't expect any conflict between what the PA, that is the parents association, do, and that of what the school, the normal school activities also operate. So we expect that parents stick to the modus operandi of the association, and the school runs its normal program or normal activities as we do know.
Okay.
So we don't expect any conflict between that aspect.
And while we wrap up this conversation, this will still bring us back to the issue of feeding, because the suspicion, reason for which you have issued that order, may be some concerns that are emerging on campus about the quality of food, for instance, that's being served senior high school students. Former President John Dramani Mahama claiming some time ago, days ago actually, that the quality is nothing to write home about.
What I'll say is that the menu which is given out to students during the days of President Mahama hasn't changed. The quality-wise that he knew first and that of today. Today we've even enhanced it. The addition of dessert, which is given out, fruit, which is added to students' food, granite paste, which is added to their breakfast, tells an enhancement and the rich quality that we are feeding the students of campus. If you go to other campuses, some of what is said to the students, again said to the teachers as well. And we've never had any complaint about the quality-wise which is given out to anybody. And I find it very difficult accepting what you're telling me, whether if it is coming from the former president, if he had the opportunity to visit some of the schools, he will come back and check the perception about the whole program. And I think we wouldn't want to give much attention to that. We do know what pertains within the various schools, what is fed them. You go see the quality wise of our breakfast, our lunch, and our supper, and the students will attest to it. And those within the school environment do attest to it. And I think the former president should take a visit to some of the schools and see what is being served there. And we want to assure parents that what we do serve them, we expect quality-wise, and that is what we are giving them, because we want to create a conducive environment for teaching and learning. That is what enhances education, which will eventually lead to better outcomes of the education process. Right. So we wouldn't do anything to compromise the quality-wise that we give out to anybody. And therefore, we are sticking to what the dictates are, what the nutritionists and the dietitians have planned for the various schools. And that is basically what we are serving them.
Grateful. Yao Poko Mensah, Deputy Spokesperson of the Ministry of Education. But let's take you now to the Ashanti region. Concerns are still rife about the possibility of the caterers not feeding students in a number of public schools from next week when school reopens. Nana Yao-Boakye has been following up on that story for us. And Nana, earlier you were with the Ashanti Regional Minister and a team of caterers who came up, confronted the minister and says, well, you are owing us, you need to pay. But now what's the update? Is the minister beginning to act, at least release some funding to these caterers?
As it stands, the regional minister hasn't really said anything with regards to the consent raised by the caterers. He has directed them to the appropriate quarters per the interviews he has had so far. But it's just on the concerns that the caterers have been raising consistently throughout yesterday and then today. They are saying that if their concerns or their regards are not met as soon as possible, they are not going to return back to various schools. In fact, some schools reopened yesterday, schools like the State Semi-Basic School, the State Girls School, and then the Mampontin School. We went there yesterday, we started some of the activities, realized that most of the schools had been shut down. Even with Mampontin School, the school had been shut down because the kids were hungry. So the headmistress had no other choice than to close down the school and then to let the kids go back to their various houses. So for the State Semi-Basic School, the headmistress and then the school authorities were only complaining about the hunger that children were going through after 12 p.m. because during that time is when children mostly complain about hunger. So throughout the day, throughout yesterday and today, that has been the concern. But the regional minister hasn't really said anything with regards to what the caterers are asking for. He's only telling them that it is a matter of time and that the Minister for Education would address them. And for him, his office is not the appropriate process to receive such petitions that they came out with on Monday. Are
we getting a sense from the caterers on what may happen, possibly, if the debts are not settled? Do we have a plan or an idea on that? Well, it appears that Yao-Boakye Adam is no longer with us, but the point well made there. We'll get you some updates from the Ashanti region later on. You're watching The Pulse. When we get back, the Ghana Water Company says it will be disconnecting water supply to some areas. We'll tell you why.
We have a lot of expenditure that we incur in processing water. Some of the expenditure are not the cause of us, they are external, but we still have to deal with them.
And you're welcome back. The Ghana Water Company Limited says it will be disconnecting water supply to some illegal persons who are connecting to water supply illegally from the company. The CEO for the water company, Clifford Brimer, has been addressing the press on that.
What they have given me today, the list in the work that I'm going to move, is 4.7 million Ghana cedis. A lot of expenditure that we incur in processing water. Some of the expenditure are not the cause of us, they are external, but we still have to deal with them. We do not have the capacity to increase the tariff anytime there are changes in the economy, changes in the world economic order. We cannot. We have a regulator. You requested for salary adjustment, and we cannot meet your request because the money is limited. And I challenge you the day I address you that when we bring in the money, we will renegotiate the values. And that's why we are here today. Let each of us get to the field and perform what we are supposed to do. We should not be thinking for the customer. Let the customer think for themselves. Some of them will say that because there's no flow in our pipes, we are not going to pay. We are not a prepaid company. We are a postpaid. Going to collect your bills means that some water has been consumed. And whatever water that has been consumed, there was chemical use, electricity used, and they need to be paid for. And so somebody cannot say that because he's not going to get water tomorrow, he's not going to pay for what he spent yesterday. I don't think there's logic in it. And we must not give the customers that opportunity to use that as a basis not to pay. Once your meter reads, it means that you have consumed. And we are asking for what you have consumed, but not what you are yet to consume. And so when we get to you, don't tell us, oh, we don't get regular flow. Yes, we know we don't get regular flow, but your meter has read. It means that some water has passed there. And we use chemical, we use electricity to produce that water. So let's go out strong enough and retrieve the money. And at the end of it, the company becomes good. Ghanaians who are even resistant to pay will pay because we improve our services. Without that money, we cannot improve our services at all. We have chemical suppliers to pay. We have electricity to pay. We have our pipe suppliers to pay. We have valve suppliers to pay. How do we make the money if somebody who has consumed your water says that because he's not getting water tomorrow, he's not going to pay for what he spent yesterday? I don't think it's logical enough. And we should not allow them to do that.
Okay, let's bring in Stanley Mate, Public Relations Officer for the Ghana Water Company Limited. Thank you, sir, for your time. Have you mapped out the areas that you'd be carrying out this exercise at? Kindly unmute for me so I can hear the points you're making, sir. Stanley, it appears we're having some challenges hearing you. If you could just unmute so we can hear the points you're making. I was asking if you've mapped out the areas already where you'll be carrying out this exercise.
Yes, this exercise is ongoing throughout the country. So every part of the country is mapped out, if I should put it that way. So all districts, all regions are on the field. Even those of us at the head office have also joined those in the districts for this exercise. So every part of the country is undergoing or is embarking on the same revenue mobilization exercise.
For those who may not be aware about the extent of the problem, how much of a drain is this issue of illegal connection a problem or a financial burden on the Ghana Water Company Limited?
Okay, so with illegal connections, we'll say that you're about, it's just like you are stealing the water, and stealing definitely is a crime. So what we are embarking on now is not just about illegal connections, but it's about our customers and consumers who are consuming the water and not paying for. So there are industries, there are domestic and commercial category of customers who have consumed the water and they have refused to pay, or whatever the situation is. We are not aware, but we are in the field making them aware that we need the money and to enable us invest back into the system and to serve our customers very well. So it's essential that they pay their bills. And just like my MD said, if we have bill to, or as it's a postpaid system, So all the monies that we are collecting is monies that, or is for water that has been consumed already by our consumers, and as a result, they will have to make do with payment to enable us procure our chemicals and other logistics and equipment that is needed for the production of water for Ghanaians.
Are you doing all of this mindful of how essential your services are?
Yes, but we all are aware that if we cannot produce water when we do not have money. Every input for the production of water is imported. So our chemicals and other logistics and other requirements, our equipments and pipelines and everything are imported into the system. So if we bill you, okay, and you refuse to pay, how are we going to get money to import these chemicals into the system? So how are we going to get water to our people if we do not have money? So it's essential that you pay what you have consumed, so that at least we can also have the money to procure whatever we need to enable us produce water for you.
Okay, when is the exercise starting and what should customers expect?
It is a regular routine by the Ghana Water Company Limited to do revenue or to go on a revenue mobilization. But we realized that from January to March, there has been a serious rise in our arrears or our customers' indebtedness to the GWCL. And so we have embarked on this special one to enable us find out what the challenges are, to educate our customers on the field and to collect our monies. And that is why you see our managing director and other directors from the head office at the district to the district level to ensure that this exercise is a success. Okay, so you just interviewed my managing director, who this morning joined the Nungwa district on a field. I was also part of the team, and all directors of the Ghana Water Company Limited have also joined at the district level. And then we are doing everything that we can do to enable us collect our monies.
Are there some heavily indebted organizations or perhaps companies that you're targeting?
We are targeting all consumers who are, or all customers who are owing us. So it is not particular customers, but everybody who is owing the GWCL is a target, and you need to go pay your bills. So whether you are a major consumer or whether you're a domestic consumer, whether you're industrial and in the industry consumer or whatever category under which you fall, you owe the GWCL and you have to pay.
Stanley, just before I let you go, the water company itself is indebted to the electricity company of Ghana. For instance, in the Volta region, they're raising concerns about your water plants being in excess of some 17 million cedis of debt it owes ECG. How are you working towards clearing that, for instance?
That is why we need to collect our money so that we can also settle our indebtedness. We are not only owing the ECG, but we are owing other organizations as well. Our suppliers and staff are also on our necks. They need their monies and we need to pay them. And that is why we have to collect our monies so that we can also settle our bills. Now, when it comes to ECG, in the Volta region, for instance, they wanted to disconnect our treatment plant. Now, with the treatment plant, all bills from the treatment plants or all our systems are paid by the head office. And between us and then the ECG, we have a way of clearing our debts because we are all national assets. So if the Volta regional management has contacted us, that issue wouldn't have arisen. And in any way, it has been sorted out. But all that we need to tell Ghanaians is that we are also owing. We also need to pay, whether ECG, whether our chemical suppliers, whether our fuel and equipment suppliers, we also need to pay our bills and we need the monies. Now, everything we are doing is to enable us to serve the same customers that we are collecting the monies from. And you have consumed the water and you need to pay. We just want every citizen, every customer to be responsible enough and to know that you need to settle your bills after you have consumed the product. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Stanley Martis, Communications Manager, Ghana Water Company Limited. Grateful. Chief Imam, is backing the speedy passage of a law that will govern marriages in the world of Islam here in Ghana, and when it comes to their divorce as well. It follows revelations by the Registrar General that over 80% of Muslim marriages are null and void in respect of the laws governing the country. Sheikh Karim Shaibu speaks for the Chief Imam. He was disclosing the position of the cleric when the Muslim caucus in Parliament paid a courtesy call on the Chief Imam.
Invalid within the framework of our national law, but valid within the Islamic law. So there are many Muslims, once we have been able to satisfy all conditions for the validity of marriage, our marriage by the Sharia is valid. But within the law of our country, that's where, because of the issue of registration. It goes back to the colonial times. For example, we have this difficulty of still calling the law Mohammedan law, which we totally reject because we find it so objectionable, because we are not Mohammedans, we are Muslims. But that is the legacy of the colonial masters. So that's one thing. The other aspect has to do with all the processes of administration needed to ensure that marriages are properly registered, i.e. you can be talking about the registration of an imam, the venue for the registration of the marriage, the qualification of the imam who will be licensed. I mean, these are matters of, and then also, you know, in the old one, for example, the Muslim marriages, if you fail to register on a day, just within 2 weeks, your marriage is nullified unless you go to court to go and do. I mean, these are quite completely discriminatory and very offensive to the Muslim, if you like, family life and family law. And so this is the time that it has come up. It's something that has been on the table for some time, but seeking to really address it comprehensively has been a big challenge. So we are happy that the current chairman of the Muslim Caucus in Parliament, Honorable Farouk Ali Muhammad, you know, wants to make it an agenda of personal passion to see how we can consistently push this with the support, the backing of the National Chief Imam to get this, so Muslims in the country will feel satisfied. For example, we have the difficulty of how marriage relates to inheritance in Islam. In Islam, no Muslim dies intestate, but the PNDC law, assumes that any person who dies intestate. But in Islam, it is not so, because every portion has been made so detailed and made specific.
Meanwhile, the Muslim caucus in Parliament is giving assurances that there will be a speedy passage of the law. The chairperson of that caucus, Farouk Muhammad, has been addressing the press on that.
Imam is somebody who's like a grandfather to me. My late grandfather, Morigala, Member of Parliament for Sisala, and also Minister for Foreign Affairs, Trade and Education, were all people close to the Chief Imam. When my grandfather died, late Morigala, it's the Chief Imam who buried him. When my late father, the first Muslim Vice President, died, it was Chief Imam who buried him. When my mom, the second lady, Hajara Matu, died, it was the Chief Imam who buried. I have established a very good relationship with the Chief Imam for a long-standing relationship. So today, having been coming here every year before I became a Member of Parliament, when I was working in Cocoa Board, it was a ritual that I always come to give my donation of blessing and donation to the Chief Imam. The last time I came, I was not a Member of Parliament. I came to seek the support of the Chief Imam to pray for me to become a Member of Parliament, which was achieved. And today I'm coming again to give him the Ramadan donation and also to inform him that I've been chosen as the leader and chairman of the Muslim caucus. He being a grandfather is very, very important. Because having been a Muslim head, I will need to collaborate with him, seek his blessings, and to collaborate to see how we can solve most of the challenges facing the Muslim Ummah. The marriage bill is something that is very, very critical under my watch and my agenda, and I believe the National Muslim Conference, which I'm now a board advisory board member by virtue of me being elected as the chairman, we will work together with the Office of the Chief Imam to make sure the marriage bill, which is critical to the people, and the Muslim women who are working at workplaces so that their hijabs and all that could be accepted by all the corporate entities in Ghana, and we'll have that collaboration with the Office of the Chief Imam. Yes. Yes. That's the agenda, because we as Muslims, we have a way we dress, and it will be improper for you to deny a Muslim. There shouldn't be any discrimination in our workplaces. So it's something that I'm championing, but I will need the support of the Chief Imam.
Let's take you now to the central region because Perseus Mining Limited is warning of an imminent flooding in parts of the Upper West Denshire if steps are not taken to curb the activities of illegal miners. The mining company says that many pits have been left uncovered by these illegal miners, posing a danger to communities in their operational areas. There's more in this report.
The general manager of Perseus Mining Ghana Limited, Dr. Stephen Kofi Ndede, noted that the company continues to spend huge sums of money in dealing with activities of illegal mining. He further stated that such funds could have been channeled into developmental projects to help desalt and reconstruct some canals infiltrated by the Galamsey activities. He bemoaned how illegal miners are encroaching their concessions and digging pits without covering them. He warns of imminent flooding that could seriously affect farms and residents in the area if the activities of Galamsey miners are not checked.
The activities of the illegal miners at the Suafo Canal and other areas have caused the destruction of farms, fish ponds, forest cover, and soils, which will lead to food security as well as potential trapping of illegal miners in the pits, which could result in disability and death. Despite several engagements with leadership of the communities and persistent warning among the other interventions, these have proven futile, resulting in PMGS spending colossal amount of money to desalt and reconstruct the canal. We have also spent heavily on security personnel and patrols. This money could have been used to undertake extra developmental projects in the catchment communities. Ladies and gentlemen, with the current trend of illegal mining, activities at the Suafo Canal and the Nkonya pit, there is the tendency that any heavy downfall will flood the Abdamana community and impact on farms downstream of the Asuafo pond. On this note, Mr. Chairman, I want to use this occasion to urge the public, especially the youth from our catchment communities, to refrain from entering our mining areas through unauthorized routes as it is against the mining law.
Dr. Ndede pledged the company's resolve of assisting the communities through the Edikan Trust Fund targeted at ensuring development in their catchment areas.
Educational events such as the talent show and inter-school quiz competition were all suspended due to the COVID-19 pandemic. I wish to assure you that all these events will be brought back as part of the company's commitment to developing the communities through improvement in education. I'm happy to inform you that a local vendor has been contracted to provide goalposts and nets for all the 5 community football parks.
Perseus Mining Ghana Limited, in its quest to support and develop the talents of the young men and women within their catchment communities, has instituted programs to provide and improve all existing football fields in the various catchment communities. The games form part of activities organized by the company to promote peace, unity, and togetherness among their catchment communities and the company. Abdallah Osman's reports read to you.
And time now for Climate Focus. Women in the Boko West district of the Upper East region say they are determined to reforest their degraded land and to grow more trees in the area. In this edition of our Climate Focus, Albert Sorry has more from the community.
Over the years, severe and prolonged dry seasons, overgrazing, rampant bushfires, and the indiscriminate felling of trees have translated into an increased decline in forest cover, loss of indigenous biodiversity, and decreased soil fertility in many parts of Ghana. It is even more precarious in the northern parts of Ghana, where the climate is harsher due to fewer tree populations. The poor peasant farmers here are having to bear the brunt of the unfavorable climate and weather and its effects of poor yields. Women in the Boko West district are determined to combat desertification so they can also enjoy a friendlier climate in their communities. This is the Galaka community near Zebila, where the Regreening Africa project supported the community to fence a 3-hectare land for a plantation. Mango and mahogany seedlings have been transplanted here to help reverse land degradation. The community plays the role of ensuring the survival of the trees, so the women here decided that rather than always just keeping watch over the trees, they would rather grow vegetables on the same land. This will help them get money to support their families even as they nurse the trees here.
They have been here for ages without anything meaningful doing, apart from the rainy season farming we do small. But with the help of World Vision, we've been able to raise onions. That is what we use to sell to pay our children's school fees. We use it for our domestic purpose. That is where we sell to buy ingredients from the market and use it for other home activities.
The Regreening Africa project seeks to promote simple land restoration practices to help improve livelihoods, food security, and resilience to climate change for smallholder farmers in the Garo Timpani and Boko West districts of the Upper East region and the Mion district of the Northern region. It is a European-funded project being implemented in African countries. Joshua Adumbiri is a World Vision Project Officer on the Regreening Africa project.
In this community, we have 40 women. We have 20 of them who are supporting in the protection and then grooming of the trees. And we also have 20 women who are also assisting to fight bushfires in the event of any fire emanating from any angle. But if there were to be enough water here, you would have had the whole place being flooded with these gardens of vegetables as well as the trees we have planted. So we would have wished that we are able to get borehole drills here and solar mechanized with water storage tanks where we can pump the water and use for the irrigation purposes here.
For JoyNews, Albert Sori, Galaka, Boko West District.
And we're painting that picture of what's likely to happen in the NDC internal race for you, because 6 constituencies in the central region, including that of the minority leader, will have their candidates go unopposed. We have more in this report for you.
3 constituencies are on hold, and so we vetted 20 out of the 23. At the end of the vetting today, we have 6 constituencies having their pieces go unopposed. Honorable Gisela is going unopposed. That is Utu Senya West. Shaibu Mejima is also Asen Central is going unopposed. Honorable Emilia Ankoma Upper Denchira East is also going unopposed. Honorable Minority Leader Ato Forsen for Ajumako is also going unopposed. Lawyer Daniel Ohene Dakon, Upper Denchira West is also going unopposed. Honorable Quinsta Pokuya, as we speak now, is an issue with her contender, but you have to exhaust the appeal process. If he is able to exhaust the appeal process and cleared, then there will be a contest. If he is unable to clear himself, then Honorable Pokuya may also have the opportunity of going unopposed.
Also, that's Joseph Yamin, national organizer for the NDC. Some of the aspirants have also been sharing their thoughts.
Quite cool. I mean, it was normal. They spoke about the petitions. They found no merit in the petition, and they cleared me. After that, we balloted. I am number 3, and we are going to contest. As I have told them, I am bringing a change. I'm going to make NDC more vibrant, more attractive, and we're going to make sure that we get a seat from MPP.
Let us all stay calm. Let us work towards 2024. We have one mission, to retain the seat for the NDC. Because this is the first time, and we are hoping, and I know that we're going to work hard towards that, that the constituency will have an MP going 2 terms continuous, back to back. And you see, when you compare other constituencies who have had their members of parliament having a bit more staying power beyond the 4 years, you see there's quite some stability and the level of development that the constituency experience. Unfortunately, we have not been able to have that because of the change, the frequent change in leadership on the parliamentary front. And it is our hope that the delegates will all have one mind, and the community also, I would Senior West community. I serve them in the best capacity that I can, and I'll continue to do that. And I think that is, may God be a helper.
You know, in everything, amongst the equals, there's always the best. So even if you were 1,000, don't forget that in the Bible, Jesse has 7 sons. David was the last one, and he was the promised son who became a king on a foreign land. So if you are 7, yes, it also means that NDC, we have the men. We have equal people that can equally do the work better. So yes, we are 7. I believe that God will choose one, and that is Andy Kofi. When Andy Kofi wins, the 6 will come to join me to help NDC, Infantman, Central Region, and Ghana to go forward.
In a snap, what would be?
I would want to say it is an internal game, contest, not a war that we are going. And so I want to preach and practice peace. That on the 13th, we are going to vote to select one leader to lead the party into victory 2024. And so all the followers should see us to be one. So we all do the needful. When we are done with the primaries, we should come together to ensure our party wins. That is the ultimate. No war, no insult, nothing that will derail the image of your opponents. And I want to believe that God will see us through into power 2024.
And we're back now with our Clean Ghana campaign for you. My colleague Michael Niashale has been to some parts of Accra, joining the team at the Accra Metropolitan Assembly to check out the situation of sanitation in some parts of the city.
Yet another week again on the Joy Clean Ghana campaign, and this time the focus is on food safety. We are currently in the Ablekuma South Sub-Metro, where George Lawson is the District Environmental Health Officer. Mr. Lawson, so, I mean, we've started food safety for some time now. I think this is the 2nd week. Yeah. Where are we now? What exactly would your focus be this time around?
Yeah, we are currently at Mamprobi Sempe, St. Papo's food joint. And as you rightly said, we want to enforce food safety and hygiene. So we want to see where food is prepared at St. Papo food joint.
Okay. Then be after you, we are leading you. So definitely they are going to put the book by the activities that are done here in this particular joint. So this is St. Papo's, definitely a blessed place to be, serene when you enter. But that is not the focus. The focus is what is happening with food and how it's prepared. So currently the AMA officials are checking the kitchen area. So this is one of the areas from what you can see from the utensils. Some of the things here, it tells that this is one of their cooking places. Definitely the AMA will be checking every nook and cranny of this place. They've already opened the fridge. You see some more items are being checked. I mean, for the AMA, the concern is how easy you could have cross-contamination from even the commonest thing from a sink where items are supposed to be washed and made clean to the food in itself, and how sometimes utensils that have already been used are left uncovered or unattended to. So Mr. Lawson is here and he's been checked. You give us an initial announcement.
The fridge they are using, look at behind the fridge. You see? Look. This is refuse food just behind where they store their fridge. The fridge is even rusted. So already you could see that food that will be prepared here will be contaminated. Yeah. So, what's your name? Miriam. Who is the owner of the place? What's the name?
What?
The owner of this place. The owner. Are you the owner?
Yeah.
You are the owner of this place. You are the manager, the manageress.
Yeah.
What's your name?
Miriam.
Miriam what?
Sule.
Sule. So have you seen this? Yeah. This is your fridge. This is where food is being stored. Your raw materials for preparation of food. And look at the dirt there. It means you don't take care of this place. You don't sweep here. You can see it. Look at the fridge. It's rusty. Is it good? So do you comply with food safety and hygiene laws of AMA? No. So it means you have made your entrance nice, but where the food is actually coming from is filthy. So we are going to summon you for failing to comply with food safety standards. Look at here. And this is the salt that you use for preparation. Look, it's exposed. Look under the this thing, the table. It's not kept clean. Yeah.
So, like I rightly said earlier, the AM will be putting every single thing that is being done here under the microscope. They're even asking for George Lawson to check even if the salt that is being used and exposed to the atmosphere is even iodinated.
The sticks that they use to prepare kebab is exposed. You can see flies on it. This one, they are not going to wash it straight. They use it to prepare kebabs. These are the grinding pots that they use to serve people. And the ground there. After this thing is emptied, it's not cleaned, it's not washed, and it doesn't have any cover. So flies from here will go to the kitchen and contaminate the food.
What is that?
It's a
septic tank.
With cockroaches. So even in the night, the cockroaches can move from here to the kitchen and contaminate your food. Here, this charcoal that's not supposed to be here. The air will blow it into the food. Not the plastic this thing. It's supposed to be sealed. Look at your drink.
And I must say, one thing that Mr. Lawson is still not mentioning is the stench from this particular area. You have the dustbin and then the septic tank here. Clearly, a lot of food safety measures have been violated.
We've been here several times to advise you, but to no avail. Oh, this place is beautiful, but there are usually issues with the kitchen. Anybody who is passing will say, oh, St. Papo's joint, nice place, let me go and eat there. But when you enter the kitchen, where food is prepared, there's a problem.
And it's time now to take you to Europe, where our focus is on that high-level visit by the French President Emmanuel Macron and the head of the European Union to China. Let's get more from Thomas Sparrow, who's with our partners, the DW, joining us now. Thomas, why are these two leaders making that crucial visit to China?
We're talking here about two of the world's biggest economic powers, China and the European Union. We're talking here about two countries or regions that have very close economic relations, but at the same time have significant differences when it comes to their political priorities and their political policies. And that's one of the reasons why, from an European standpoint, China is often seen both as an ally, both as a commercial partner, and at the same time as a systemic rival. And there is growing concern among European leaders when it comes to China's policies, both internally and abroad. You may have recently heard European Union Commission President von der Leyen stress that China is becoming more repressive at home and more assertive abroad. So there is also an increasing understanding in Europe that it's important to engage with China and to try and sort some of those differences. And we're talking about really very significant political differences. One of the most obvious one is the fact that China and the European Union do not see eye to eye when it comes to Russia's war in Ukraine.
Right. And what exactly is Macron and von der Leyen seeking to do with this visit to China?
Well, they have different priorities when it comes to the actual program that they're carrying. They will not be having the same program throughout. But I think one of the most important elements of this visit is trying to present a common front when it comes to Europe's and the European Union's policies towards China. It is obviously clear that when you're talking about 27 members of the European Union, there are certain differences when it comes to the importance that is placed on China and the priorities that a EU-China relationship should have. So from a European Commission standpoint, from Ursula von der Leyen's standpoint, it's important to present as much as possible a united front when it comes to Europe's policies. But it's also about making sure that channels of communications are open and that the European Union can present some of its opinions on China's policies as well when it comes to human rights, for example, when it comes to its treatment of minorities, also when it comes to other issues, where, as I stressed, they do not necessarily see eye to eye.
I see. And you are in Berlin, Thomas. How's this been received by Germans, especially from the perspective of Chancellor Olaf Scholz?
It's important to stress that German Chancellor Olaf Scholz visited China last year, at the end of last year, and this is part of a wider political understanding where European leaders have been visiting China in the last few months and in the last few weeks. In fact, the Spanish head of government, Pedro Sanchez, was also in China recently, and we're expecting also further visits from high-ranking European Union officials. So from a Berlin perspective, it is clear that it's important to engage in a dialogue with China, obviously stressing some of the different points of view, yet at the same time looking carefully at where these two blocs, China and the European Union, can actually work together. When Olaf Scholz was in China, he stressed the importance of discussing these things with China, of keeping those channels of communication open. Right. And I'm sure that this is something that both von der Leyen and Emmanuel Macron will try and achieve during this China visit.
And we'll certainly keep an eye on that. Thanks, Thomas, for joining us. Thomas Barrow with our partners, DW, in Berlin. And that's all we have for you here on The Pulse. I'm blessed to now log on to myjoyonline.com. We have updates on our stories there for you. Thanks for watching.